Welcome all. I'm joined today by Anthony Barsamian, the co-chair of the Armenian Assembly of America, which is the largest non-partisan Washington-based national organization seeking to promote Armenian interests and causes and further deepen Armenia-US relations. So, Mr. Barsamian, thank you very much for your
Emilio,
time.
thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been at CivilNet, so it's nice to be back.
Well, it's nice to have you back. Can you start off by telling a bit about your visit? What was the purpose of your visit and how did it go?
Sure. Well, I'm in the middle of the visit, but I come a few times a year, obviously, and every day we work on Armenian American issues and issues relating to Armenia. So 2 reasons why I'm here. Most importantly, it's to meet with government officials always with U.S.-Armenia relations. We have to hear from all different parties, opposition, and the government itself. It's also, we planted our 7th million tree, the Armenia Tree Project, which has been in existence now for over 25 years, just planted its 7 millionth tree. So we did that up in north of Dilijan at our site that we have up there. We have the center up there that has the Ohanian Center and the Myrak Nursery in Margahovit. So that was yesterday we did that. And it's also the 50th anniversary of the Armenian Assembly of America. So we are talking to people about the future of the Armenian Assembly of America. We have now we're on our 4th, 5th, 6th generation of Armenian Americans. And we're getting a sense of how Armenia will relate to future generations of American Armenians, Armenian Americans, and it's quite exciting.
Mm-hmm. And for my next question, it's quite a coincidence that you're here today, but USAID announced today $120 million in assistance to Armenia, which I believe is much more than previous USAID allocations. What did you think about this development and what did it take to get to this?
So we have been working on this for quite some time. And we had always asked for 100 million for Armenia and 50 million for Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh. This is great. This is exactly where we should be. We hope that a lot of that money is used in regions of Armenia that doesn't see US funding, certainly in Sunik and in regions that we feel that confidence building measures by the United States should be made. It's great that the European Union put together a big package. We hope Russia also puts together a package for Armenia, but it's really affirming and exciting to see that the US government has put together a $125 million offer to start the process.
And in terms of US assistance to Armenia, what is the Assembly pushing for now? What are some of the new priorities?
Well, that comes in multi-vector, a multi-pronged approach. Certainly, it's important for security guarantees. So anything that bolsters Armenia's security, border security, technical support, we are strongly in favor of. We are working with USAID to increase numbers. So USAID works on more projects. We had a discussion today with USAID about more water security in the region. We talked about food security. We know that recently fertilizer has been, the price of fertilizer has gone up. So we're looking ahead 1, 2, 3 years to understand better how we help farmers, maybe do some more organic farming in areas that they can shift so that food security is not disrupted. So there's those kind of projects, but certainly security and making sure that our borders are secure and that we work with all of our partners in the region. So you saw Karen Dunfried said, we want to stay on the OSCE track with the French and the Russians. And I think that's an important offer on the table. OSCE is still in place. And the Russians and the Americans, obviously, because of Ukraine, haven't communicated recently. This may be the one place where Russia, the United States, and France can come together and work together for regional security in the Caucasus.
And the United States also today announced a new ambassador to Armenia. Ambassador Lynn Tracy will be replaced by Christine Kivien. Some had, however, criticized Ambassador Tracy's performance in Armenia. The Armenian National Committee of America famously rated her an F for her performance. How would the Assembly overall assess Tracy's tenure?
So our job is really to work with the US government and the Armenian government. And this is where the non-partisan piece comes into play. So we understand that the ambassador that is appointed from the United States is appointed by the president and has to be confirmed by Congress. We feel that it was a difficult period, obviously, because of the war, and we look forward to Ambassador Kievan. This could be a great period. She comes from work that she has done in Ukraine, so she understands the region. The one thing about Armenia is obviously always getting professional diplomats, especially those who understand the region, so that when they land in Armenia, they know what they're in for, they know how to hit the ground running. We'll work with every ambassador, as we've done from the beginning, and I can name every ambassador. We've worked with them, both ambassadors in the United States, the Armenian ambassadors, and the US ambassadors that come to Armenia. Our job is really to make sure that the administration sets the policy correctly. So ambassadors carry out policy, administrations set policy. So State Department and the White House, those are where we have to have our sphere of influence and having good dialogue with our own government, the US government, to make sure that the message is clear that the work that they do in in Armenia from the United States is the right work that Armenian Americans expect.
And obviously the 2020 Karabakh war resulted in a military defeat for Armenia, which in turn caused a lot of demoralization and trauma for Armenian people. This in turn has caused political discourse to become a lot more heated and polarized. The Armenian Assembly of America, though, has a policy of non-intervention in politics and being non-partisan. It has also continued that even into the post-war period. Why is that still important in your mind?
I think it's one of the most important cornerstones of the Armenian Assembly of America. I mean, we always say, don't bring Armenian politics to the United States, and we won't bring American politics or diasporan politics to Armenia. You know, Emilio, it's very, very important that we look at where we are in the world. We have many, many more influential Armenians around the world, and in the United States, there are such a high number of qualified people to impact the US government. Why on earth would I want someone from Armenia to come to the United States and tell us how the US government should function? It doesn't work that way. Why would I come to Armenia and tell the Armenian government how to function as a US citizen? So the point is, we work with our government to try to build that relationship in partnership with the Armenians, the Armenian people. First and foremost, the Armenian people are what's important, and that's why the Armenian Assembly does what it does. It gives voice in Washington to Armenian Americans to help and work with Armenians here in the homeland.
Mm-hmm. And what has it been like working with the diplomatic team, Armenia's diplomatic team in Washington? Ambassador Lilit Markuns, for example, in DC. How would you assess their work? What has it been like working for them? And on top of that, Ambassador Markuns has had some instances of harassment by various young activists. What does the Assembly think of this and about the general level of discourse between a lot of Armenian individuals and groups?
I think, there's a place for civil discourse. And, the United States over the last 4 to 10 years have not been necessarily smooth sailing as well. There's a lot of discourse in the United States. There's a lot of discourse here. We have to always be civil. And I have worked with the first ambassador from Ruben Shugarian, who was the first Armenian ambassador in the United States, right through to Ambassador Markuns. I would say that they too have a very strong job to do. Our ambassadors in the United States are well prepared. The ambassadors sent to from Armenia to the United States are well prepared. Ambassador Markuns is doing a wonderful job. We work with her. The problem is, you do have a time in Armenian history where there is a lot of division. People are divided, and we understand that, and there should be discussion. Protests are good. It's good to go out and say we demand more from our government. but it has to be done in a civil tone. I would do it in the United States. I really enjoy when I see people participate in the political process. That's what the Armenian Assembly is all about. I ask young people, how many doors have you knocked in a presidential campaign or a congressional campaign? If you're not out there working on the ground as you would here, that is what democracy is all about. But at the end of the day, a government is elected, and then 680,000 people elected this government in Armenia. In the United States, Joe Biden was elected with a wide margin because of the states that lined up and how it was elected. You have to respect the leader of a country, whether it's a Republican, a Democrat, whether it's from the various parties here in Armenia. It's time to close ranks, not necessarily agree with everything the government does, but certainly to be working as one unit to understand that at the end of the day, Armenia will be stronger if we can all support the things we believe in. Security, right to self-determination, human rights. These are the bedrock of Armenian values, Armenian American values. So when the West, the United States, when Europe looks at us, they do see Armenia as different. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not a pragmatic people. And as a government has to be pragmatic. And I think a little more pragmatism is important. But it's time right now to dust ourselves off. The war was a setback. But it's one, you heard Karen Donfried said, 30 years went by when Armenia won the first war. So Azerbaijan bested the Armenians on this go around. Do we want to do this again, or is there going to be a lasting peace? And that's the one message the Armenian Assembly sends. If Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, and all the countries around want stability in the region, then Russia, the United States, and France should take the lead in OSCE. Both sides will have to give up something. Karabakh, Artsakh will remain Armenian land, and that's just a given. And we have to look at the realities on the ground, but also to deal with the situation at hand, start making some hard choices. But that means Azerbaijan needs to make the hard choices. They have to stop talking about war. They can't say, it's time to make peace with Armenia, but if we don't, we're taking Zangezur. That will not work. So I would say to President Aliyev, sober up, stop talking as if you're still on the battlefield, release the POWs. The first thing the agreement said is all POWs would be released. Release those POWs and also sit down at the table with the democratic nations of the world, with Russia, with the United States, and with France, and hammer out a lasting peace so that their children, our children, and the entire region will have stability and peace.
Mm-hmm. And the Second Karabakh War, the scale of the defeat was shocking to many Armenians and foreigners. I'm wondering, how did the war change the work the Assembly is involved in? And also, how would you say the war was perceived on the Hill and in the State Department, for example? How was it seen in Washington?
You know, it's different now than it was even 6 months ago.
Okay.
And the difference is Ukraine. 6 months ago, we would have said, we are so unique. What happened to the Armenians was a major defeat. But if you look at the tragedy of Ukraine and what the Ukrainian people are facing, you look at Armenia and you look at Artsakh and say, it's time for us to understand how to do what we do better, how to modernize the army, how to build real security for the region. And security may come with having better relations with our neighbors, but you can't have a better relation with neighbors who talk about war. And you can't have better relations with neighbors such as Turkey, who may say they want peace, but they haven't taken any step to normalize relations. So there is dialogue going on, and we are sober, honest people, and so aren't the countries around us. If they really want to talk and actually bring forward peace, then they're going to have to do it with their actions, not just with their words.
And the Armenian Assembly of America was very determined for many years to push for the recognition of the Armenian genocide in the United States. And since then, the White House, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and all 50 states have now officially recognized the Armenian genocide. Has this allowed the Assembly now to redirect resources or efforts to other areas? How has that changed the work of the Assembly?
For sure. So you're right about the work that we've done on Armenian genocide. And some people feel like that is check the box, that's now done. That's not how we see it. The Armenian genocide is now recognized in the United States. Matter of fact, I was here just before the Senate recognized, and I told Tatul that it's going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. And then when the President of the United States was elected, many people called and said, will he use the word? And we were much more patient because we understood it's not about using the word genocide. It's about going through every cabinet of the United States, going through the State Department, going through the National Security Council, making sure the policy is changed to understand that what happened to the Armenians was a genocide and that will never be backpedaled. That the US government, every ambassador, every national security advisor will use the term genocide. That being said, what happened in 2020 is a threat of another genocide. So we're not stopping there. We're just refocused on security. And it's time for Armenians, both here and in the United States, to seriously look at what will help Armenia's security. Because at this point in time, it's about modernizing and equipping our soldiers, men and women, I hope, in the future. It's about high technical value. We have great minds here in Armenia. Hopefully they will work with other people around the world to make sure that Armenia is secure. And that being said, it's also about understanding where we are in this place and time and seeing if Azerbaijan, Turkey, Georgia, Iran, there are red lines in this region which you cannot cross. But can people dialogue in good faith and come to terms on peace in the region? That's what the message of the Armenian Assembly.
And in terms of US-Armenia relations, many believe that there has been an uptick in relations. There has been several talks between US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken with the Armenian Foreign Minister and the Armenian Prime Minister. Do you think that there has been an uptick? What do you think about greater engagement between the two countries?
Absolutely. I was in Washington last month when Foreign Minister Mirzoyan came to town and met with Anthony Blinken. There has been an uptick, and there's much more access to this administration than some of the past administrations. And I think that is super important. And why does that happen? It's because Armenian Americans have penetrated government, they're involved in the process. You know, it's interesting. Azerbaijan likes to pay for its access in Washington. And they do it quite effectively. Petrodollars I saw today a report by an intelligence news agency that Matt Bryza was just hired again by Azeri oil interests. Former ambassador to Azerbaijan, worked in the Bush administration. Armenians have citizen advocates. We have Armenian Americans in every state. We don't need to pay for our lobbyists, and we don't lobby because we are US citizens. We go to our government, we go to our senators and congressmen, and we tell them these are our priorities. And I think Armenian values line up with American values. And as an American, I'm proud that this administration is close to Armenia and they understand what Armenia is all about. I don't think the US administration necessarily enjoys having paid lobbyists come to them and probably threaten them, or in the past year have actually illegally paid money to members of Congress who are now under investigation. That's not the way the Armenian American community operates. We are fully transparent, above board. We are 501c3, and we educate our young advocates and all of our advocates to go out and do what's right in the United States.
And does the Armenian Assembly of America team keep an eye on what the Azerbaijani and Turkish lobbyists are doing in the United States? I mean, the Departments of State, Defense and Energy and the US Agency for International Development reported providing about $808 million for assistance for Azerbaijan between 2002 and through to 2020. in Pennsylvania, I believe a pro-Erdogan senator may be running later this year. Do you guys observe them? Do you guys keep an eye on them?
We do more than observe. I mean, we participate. So Dr. Oz is running in Pennsylvania. We have asked and we've voiced our opinion very strongly for the voters of Pennsylvania to reject Dr. Oz, not because as a Turkish American he is not qualified. It's because he hasn't come clean on the issues. He's not acknowledged the Armenian genocide. There's a question of his dual citizenship, which probably is dual loyalty to Turkey. So that becomes an issue. All we ask is that our members of Congress and senators are transparent, come forward, recognize the Armenian genocide, call for peace in this region. And there is a lot of influence in Washington that we have to fight against every day. We're up for that challenge. We'll continue to sharpen our pencils and do a better job in the future. But the idea of us being an observer in the United States, we are active participants in what happens in Washington. As you may know, many of us are in Washington daily or weekly, and our team is working very hard. And we welcome more people and more. The one thing about the Armenian Assembly is you can belong to any political party in the United States. You can belong to any political party in Armenia. And if you become a citizen in the United States, you're welcome to be an Armenian Assembly member. So we are focused on getting our members, our advocates, our supporters to become active on the Hill in Washington, active in their state capitals, and actually get involved in public service. Public service is a very noble profession in the United States, and if it's done properly, it's very rewarding. But I would say that the line of public servants, Jackie Spear, Governor Dukmajian, George Kavarian, and I could go on, are wonderful examples of true and honest public servants in America.
And finally, thank you for bearing with me. I want to ask about the Armenian community in America in general. Some people believe that partly the reason why Armenian causes are being taken more seriously in America is partly because the Armenian community in America is becoming more affluent, it's becoming more educated, it's becoming more successful in business, in a number of spheres. You have seen the community transform. Do you think this is the case? And is that making Armenian voices more heard and more, taken seriously?
100%, Emilio. The one thing I'm so proud of is the people who we've worked with throughout the years. At our 50th anniversary banquet in California, we looked back and we thanked Dr. Denis Papazian and Richard Hovhanessian, who are giants that started the Armenian Assembly. But we also honored Nina Hachikian, who is the deputy mayor of Los Angeles, and it was a Obama-appointed ambassador to Asia. So what you have are amazing people. Even within our own ranks of the Armenian Assembly, you have Mark Hoplamazian, who is the president of Hyatt Corporation, or Judge Willa Hogan, who spoke at our Boston event recently, where she's the highest ranking appellate judge in the United States. So you have, and not only do we have great Armenian Americans, we have great Armenians who have recently become citizens and are super bright. Some of the brightest people in the Armenian community are people who come from Armenia, that they want to come, they want to learn, they become active, and the best thing we could do is have them come back. So like us, people always say, you go back to Armenia so much. It's something that I think is incredibly rewarding, and I hope this first, second generation of Armenians who have come to America look back and say it's time for me to give back to Armenia.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Barsamian, insightful as always. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Emilio.
And thank you for joining us on CivilNet.